in 2021. This is episode 152. Can I upgrade a 2012 Camry to an $80,000 Tesla? It's 39.6 Facebook and YouTube Live Finance Show. Show that teaches high earners like yourselves how to make your money work for you, so you don't have to work for your money. Talk general investing, taxes, real estate, syndications, Airbnb, and paying for childcare, paying for college, and even the car you drive. Today's episode, the question for another Facebook group, anonymous. The question says, my husband is a physician. I work, I'm going to kind of paraphrase some of this. I work in the private practice, which is a pain interventional anesthesia clinic with multiple other physician partners. Their income is $750,000. She's one of the office managers and helps run the practice. Okay. They're both in their 30s and they live in what she calls a medium cost of living location, and they currently do not have children. He is 2.5 years out of training and still has $400,000 left in student loans. They have a house with a $600,000 home mortgage. I asked her how much it's worth, and she said it's $612,000, or at least that's what it was when they paid for it. And they have a $30,000 auto loan. Okay. He had taken out loans to fund some advanced surgical centers, but the distributions from those should pay for themselves over the next 3 to 5 years. And they also have $300,000 invested in the market. Her husband wants to upgrade to an $80,000 Tesla from a 2012 Toyota Camry that still runs pretty good because it's a Camry. My mindset used to be live like a resident, pay off all loans, invest and save like crazy, and retire early. Her father passed away unexpectedly. He was young and seemingly healthy. His passing changed my perspective, or his passing changed her perspective on life and made her question a lot of things. Her question is, how do I find a balance between enjoying life now without feeling guilty and planning/saving for the future? All right, so it's the balance between today versus later, assuming that spending money on things is going to actually make you happier. Okay. Now, when I had separately asked a bunch of questions because I needed a lot more information, and then I was able to procure a number of these things. Okay. So first of all, when I go through these, I try to first figure out what the balance sheet looks like for the person and what the cash flow statement looks like. This is the way you look at a business. So if you think about your own personal finances as a business, you need to have a balance sheet and a cash flow statement. Okay, so I made a balance sheet based on the information I could procure, and I estimated some things. Okay, here we go. So this is what it sounds like to me. They have $300,000 of investments. I think this might be their IRAs. They actually don't have any 401ks at their practice. They don't have a cash balance plan. It doesn't sound like there's any retirement accounts at all. And there's a few physicians, and then there's a total of 30 employees. So there's a lot of people. And so that might be the reason why they don't have any retirement accounts, because with so many employees and having to deal with cross-testing. But honestly, I don't know why they don't have a safe harbor 401k plan available with the 30 employees. That's just a lot of missed tax savings. Okay, but investments here are listed at $300,000. Student loans are still $400,000. They own a home that has a $600,000 mortgage, and she said that it was worth $612,000. Now, they invested in an advanced surgical center, and these often can pay very good returns. They're often the best investment that a physician can make, because you're basically buying into the profits of the facility. And so you're getting more than just potentially like your professional collections for seeing patients in clinic, but it has to be profitable. But assuming you have a profitable surgical center, then you get to get some of that extra profit from the surgeries, procedures that are done. And it sounds like the practice provided a loan to him that he then used to buy his shares in the surgical center. So it wasn't really any money out of his pocket. She said there was a small origination fee and they paid that. But they don't have to necessarily make payments because the distributions from the profits are making those payments. But I don't know all the details of it. I mean, if it's not profitable, I would expect that they would have to pay that loan, but I don't know. Now, she has a Lexus that they bought for $30,000, and they currently owe $20,000 on it. If they owe $20,000 on it, this is not a new Lexus, and cars depreciate. So I estimated that it's currently now worth $20,000. It could be worth more or less, but 20,000 is a reasonable estimate. So they're probably not underwater on it, but they probably don't have equity in it either. Okay, because the depreciation tends to be fastest at the beginning of a car. Although a Lexus has relatively straight depreciation. And then they have a 2012 Camry. I looked up some cars, 2012 Camrys, and a lot of them were actually over 10,000. Some of them were down like 7 or 8,000. So anyway, I put $8,000 as the value of that vehicle. Okay. Yeah, Camrys hold their value actually very well. They last forever. They're unbelievably dependable, and they're a full-size car as opposed to like Corolla, especially the older ones when models were smaller. But being a full-size car, it still is quite safe. Now, it's not like an SUV, but it is a full-length car, so there's good crumple zones and whatnot. Okay, so in total, their assets are $1.49 million. Okay. Oh, for the Advanced Surgical Center, they said they owed $550,000. I don't know how much it actually is worth that they put in, but I'm just assuming it's basically a wash. So basically, you have the home, which they have like $12,000 in equity, which isn't really equity, because if you had to sell the house, you'd be paying 6% at least. So that'd be $36,000. You'd be underwater if you sold it. You'd be bringing money to the table. The loan on the Advanced Surgical Center, that's probably just a wash. The first car, a wash, and they probably have a little bit of equity then in the other car. I'm assuming there's no mortgage or loan on that. That doesn't say, but it's an 8-year-old car, so probably is paid off. And then they have $300,000 investments. So you add up all those assets, you get $1.49 million, and you add up all the liabilities, you get $1.57 million. So you're at negative $80,000. Okay, which interestingly is also the amount of the Tesla they want to buy. So they're 2.5 years out of training. They have $300,000 in investments, which means they're putting some money away, maybe a good amount. I don't know how much they started with, but $80,000 negative of net worth. You're still you're poorer than the people, the homeless people under the bridge asking for money. Like, you're broke. Like, you are worse than broke. You owe a lot more than you are worth. And if you think about back in training, 1 year of training is like, I don't know, $70,000 of income. So like, you are now like negative 1 year of residency. Like, you'd have to work a whole year of residency to catch up to zero and not spend any money. So you are negative. So before we even get into anything else, if you're worth less than zero, I don't think it's financially prudent to be buying a luxury car worth $80,000. If your net worth, let's just call this a rule of thumb. If your net worth is not at least equal to the value of the car, you should probably not be buying that luxury car. Okay, now, if you're broke, and you're buying yourself like a $20,000, Toyota RAV4 with a couple of years on it, I mean, that's just a regular car. I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying a good, safe, practical, economical dependable vehicle, because you need to go to work and you want something that's going to protect you if you're in a collision. Even like a $30,000 reasonably good car, right? But an $80,000 is definitely a luxury purchase. All right, so if you're buying a luxury car, you're going above and beyond anything that's necessary. It's probably not prudent to buy that if you are not getting something that is at least less than your net worth. Okay, so that's another thing. And then another rule that I kind of go by is, can you buy it in cash today? Maybe they can, maybe they can't, I don't know. But you should be willing to write a check for that entire amount of money and not finance it if you're buying something that's luxury. Because, well, one of the comments on the post was, $80,000 is not that much in the long scheme of things. Actually, that's 100% true. That car, in the long scheme of things, is not going to be worth anything, right? It's a car. It's a handful of pieces of metal, a lot more than a handful, but it's pieces of metal put together that over time will depreciate to near zero value. Okay. Now, sure, it might become a classic car, but it's not going to appreciate. It's going to lose money. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to mute all of these alerts and I can't do it. I apologize. Oh my gosh. This is driving me insane. Okay. So I need to figure out how to mute it on my computer so that doesn't happen anymore. Okay. So that is the balance sheet. Then the second thing is the cash flow statement. So this is actually where everything looks fine here from a cash flow perspective. Okay, the person's making $750,000 a year, and that income of $750,000 divided by 12 is $62,500 a month. Okay, $62,500 a month. That's a ton of money, right? Absolute ton of money to be on a monthly basis. That's like a whole year of a resident salary. However, there's a substantial amount of tax. Okay, I estimate based on the current, as in the 2020 tax law, that's $262,000. So $262,000 off of the $750 would leave you with around $490,000 a month, which is still a good amount of money, right? Still $40,000 a month. Okay, but this $262,000 per month is taxes, and I break it down over here. That's about $205,000 in federal tax, $12,000 in Social Security, $15,000 in Medicare, and I don't know what state they're in, but I'm just going to assume a 4% state tax rate. That's $262,000. Okay, so after you have that tax, then they have to pay their other debts. So they have their house, they have one car, and the student loans. And she said it's less than $10,000 a month, and I'm just going to assume it's about $10,000 a month. Okay, and I don't know exactly how those payment plans are set up, but if you have $400,000 in student loans and you're paying it off over like 20 years, obviously it's not going to be very much per month. But if you're paying it off in like 5 years, and that's 60 months, then you're going to be paying a good check. It might be like $7,000 a month. So it doesn't sound like they're on a 5-year payment plan. It sounds like they're on something a little bit longer. Their house at $600,000, that might be like $3,000 a month or so, between the mortgage and some other expenses associated with that. Property tax, I listed at $6,000, about 1%. And if we were to add on a new car, okay, an $80,000 car, and assuming we're going to finance it, I used the payment equation in order to calculate how much it would be. I used 3% interest, and that's $1,400 a month for 5 years. And that ends up being $17,000 per year. So you end up with annual expenses of $405,000. Okay, and your monthly expenses are $33,000. If anybody can tell me how I can mute all of these alerts, that would be very nice. Because I'm on my Mac, and even though I quit messages, I still keep getting the alerts. So I need to figure that out. If anybody sets in the chat, okay. Okay, so from a cash flow perspective, yeah, it doesn't sound like there's any problem buying an $80,000 car because you're making $750,000 per year. Now, I don't know how well that $750,000 is going to hold up year after year. I mean, you're only 2.5 years out. That might be maybe just the first year you've earned this much. Maybe you just became a partner, or I don't know. But if it just went up to $750,000, you can't depend on that money year in and year out, no matter what, right? The economy tanks and people might stop coming to the doctors, and you might lose a lot of business. Reimbursement might get cut, all sorts of things, right? So unless you've been having the same amount of income for like a good 2 years continuously, I wouldn't, or even longer, like 3 years, I really wouldn't depend on that money. There's probably some reasonable amount that you can depend on, but after that, it's probably like extra, right? Okay, and just don't necessarily count on it. So, okay. I'm signing out of Messenger, iMessage, so maybe that'll help. Okay. Next. Some other things that she had mentioned. So don't have retirement account set up. Now, right now you're paying $200,000 plus in federal tax. Next year, or whenever the tax laws change, this is going to go up, right? Because you're well over the $400,000 line. Based on like 2017 tax rule, you probably would have been closer to like maybe $240,000 a year. It may be somewhere in the middle. That's on the federal side. I haven't done a separate episode on this, but Social Security might be an absolute disaster. However, you are set up as an S corp, so that sounds fine. You don't actually have to really worry about that. But when I asked about the S corp salary and distributions, the physician is taking about $12,000 per month as a salary, and the rest of it as a distribution. So if you're doing $144,000 as an income, and then you're taking $700,000 in total, so that's $550,000 as a distribution, that's not good, at least from my best understanding of this, because you're taking like 1/5 of your money as salary and the rest of it all as a distribution. You're over the Social Security wage base, so you're only really saving on Medicare, so it's not a bunch of money you're saving on this. You're saving like 2.5%, or less than that, probably closer to almost 2.1%. But as a specialist, I don't know how you justify $144,000 of income. Like if I look up an academic salary for that same job, most of them are probably going to still be well over $144,000. So I would probably use a number that's like at least at an academic range if your ratio is going to be that disproportionate. I mean, if you do 50-50 between distributions and salary, I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. But if you're trying to stretch the limit, I mean, find like an academic salary, maybe $300,000, or maybe $250,000, and take the rest as a distribution. But taking $144,000 as your salary and then $550,000 as wages, as a distribution, sounds excessive. Now, maybe the year before your income wasn't very high, and so maybe that $144,000 is reasonable because that distribution was just considered extra. But if you continue to have income that high, I would take a higher wage. Okay, but that's just what I think. Now, yeah, if you both had 401k set up, I mean, you could, assuming you have a safe harbor 401k, I mean, I would assume you could each get the 19,000-ish, maybe a little less, but still get like 30,000 plus into pre-tax retirement. And then you still have like match on top of that. It will cost you money to pay money to your employees, but your employees, if you have full-time employees at a practice and you guys are making $750,000, it's not like you're a small business and you don't have like any money. It just sounds like you either don't want to like look out for your employees' best interests, or that you just don't know what you're doing from a benefit standpoint. I'm not trying to say that in a mean way, but like people are looking for jobs. They're looking for jobs with benefits, and a 401k is a standard benefit for most people to get in a healthcare system. If not a 401k, then try like one of those easier things like a simple IRA or something like that. I don't really usually look into those because I can get a 401k anywhere. But you really should have a retirement plan for your employees, and you especially have 30 of them. It's not like you have like one employee. If you have one employee, it can be a pain in the butt to set up a retirement account for like one person. But if you have 30 employees, you absolutely should have a retirement savings program set up for your employees. Okay. And if the numbers are favorable, and then you can put like a cash balance pension plan on top of a 401k, I mean, gosh, you could be putting $100,000 plus pre-tax. Now, what other things? Oh, okay. So you own this business, and I asked if it was like a 6,000 pound vehicle, like a Tesla X. It's a Tesla, but not a 6,000 pound vehicle. So it sounds like maybe they're interested in getting like a nice Tesla Y. I don't know if a Tesla 3 Performance, Tesla 3 Performance might get up to that price. I'm not sure. I don't know all the pricing on these, but I mean, $80,000, you can get yourself a Tesla X. You can get a used Tesla X for like 70, even like $60,000, depending on how old you're getting one. But I was looking over Christmas, and you get like a 2017 or 2018 Tesla X for like $70,000. And if you were able to do that and you're using this for business use 100% of the time, then 100% bonus depreciation, that $70,000 car ends up only costing, you take a 37% deduction on that. You end up only paying like $45,000 or so on it. $80,000 car will cost you like $50,000 or so after the tax break. And this is all just based on the old brackets, and they could change literally this year, 2021. I don't know if they will. I'm leaning toward they're not. People are leaning toward they're not going to, but it's certainly possible. But if you're going to drop $80,000 in a car, like you're literally spending more money on that car by not taking a bigger tax deduction up front on that vehicle. If you have a home office and you're also you own that business, a lot of your miles will be business miles. So, I mean, that $80,000 effectively becomes way, way cheaper if you get a 6,000 pound vehicle. Now, the lighter vehicles may be potentially more efficient and have other cheaper costs, and you can still take a lot of deductions off of that. You can still take bonus depreciation, Section 179. You can, but you can't get the whole thing all off in that first year. So if you're going to put that much money in a car, like at least from a tax perspective and a cash flow perspective, a net worth perspective, I mean, I would run that through the business, and I would get either a 6,000 pound plus vehicle as a purchase, or I would consider maybe even leasing the vehicle and then running the lease through the business, and or reimbursing yourself for those lease expenses so that you can get a bigger deduction, because you're well into the 37% bracket at your income. But going back to the beginning, at this point in your financial status, I don't really think you can afford that, because you're really broke. It doesn't have anything to do with like balancing the future versus today. Like, you are broke. Right. And the thing is, your income is so high that you're not going to be broke for long. Right. Let's pretend a year from now, like you bring your net worth up from negative 80,000 to like positive $300,000. Okay. Which is totally doable. Then it's a whole different situation. Right. But right now you're broke. Like, you could pay off all these student loans off. You could pay off all of these student loans pretty quickly. I mean, your cash flow every month is $33,000 after taxes and debt service, or $35,000 if you don't include the new car. So you do this for a year. If you put all your money you had for a year, that would pay for all of your student loans. That's assuming you spend like no other money. But remember, you were just like in training not too long ago, and you don't have kids. So I mean, it's whether or not the two of you want to buckle down and live. Like, if you can just live on a resident lifestyle outside of your house, I mean, it's not that hard to do. You could do this for 1 year, pay off all your student loans, bump up your net worth by $400,000, and you're in a completely different position. And in general, having like notes on a car, like, you make $750,000. It just honestly doesn't make sense to me to do that. Because if you really can't stroke that check to do it all at once, then maybe you can't really afford it right now. Now, the ratios between your income and the vehicle price, like the cash flow is not really the issue again, but there are some posts, maybe it's the Financial Buff, TFB, or somebody else. Or I think it's Financial Samurai. He has a rule that like it should be less than 10%. The value of your vehicle versus your annual income. Like if you keep it under 10%, that's like a great ratio so that your cost of your car is not really eating into your cash flow. And so you can build a lot of wealth. And if you think about that, if it's 10% of your income for 1 year is the value of your car, and you hold on to that car for 5 years, then you're only using up 2% of your cash flow per year. That's a pretty small percentage. And that's basically where you are. $80,000 on $750,000 income is only like 11%. So it is super cheap. It is super affordable based on your income. I mean, there's people driving like a regular $30,000 car and they make $60,000 all over America, right? They're using up half of their income in 1 year on the purchase of a vehicle. But so yeah, you can afford it from cash flow. But right now you're just broke. So I would highly encourage you to be unbroke and get some buffer in there and stroke that check with cash. And if it doesn't hurt, then you can probably afford it. Now, lastly, I do want to make one note. You own a practice. It doesn't sound like it's a huge practice. It sounds like it's a small enough practice that you know like all of your employees. One, again, they're not getting even retirement accounts. So I would feel slighted as an employee for not getting that benefit. If you roll into work one day and now you're driving an $80,000 car, sure, you know, it may like quote unquote impress the neighbors, you know, trying to keep up with the Joneses or the people at the country club or whatever. But the people you work with who you pay, if they knew how much you actually made, and they know how much they make, and they feel underpaid, do you think that they will actually be, like, how will they feel seeing that car you drive in? Okay, optics are unbelievably powerful. That's why a lot of people try to buy the nicest house they can and the nicest car they can, because they literally want people to think they have more money than they do. If you drive up in that car, what do you think they're going to think? If it's that you make way, way, way more, or maybe a lot more than you even do make, is that something that you want them to think? Do you think that they're going to become more unhappy with their compensation? What about your patients, right? Do you think your patients care? If they get like a big bill to pay and they're like, how am I paying a $200 bill? I saw the guy for 2 minutes. Do you think that maybe if they saw the $80,000 car, they may, I don't know, not have positive feelings about that? Okay, so these are things to think about because optics are so unbelievably powerful. Okay, and from my viewpoint, especially, I mean, I take care of a lot of Medicaid patients, impoverished kids. I mean, they may drive up in nice cars, but I don't want them thinking that I make anywhere near what I make. Okay, I definitely don't want them thinking I make more than I make. And your car is kind of like that badge that you take around for people to think what you make. So just be very careful about that. The more wealth you have, you may find that the less you actually want to show people how much you do. That's something that people, again, without money often do to make people think that they actually do. All right. That's it for tonight. Episode 152. Thanks everybody for joining. Until probably Wednesday for episode 153. Again, this is not legal, financial, accounting, professional, any other sort of advice, simply entertainment for myself and maybe for you. Until then, have a fantastic Sunday.